Welcome back into the Viking Central podcast. We got Ryan here, as usual, with me, my co-host over there. Also joining us today is Justin from the Purple Persuasion. How are we doing, Justin?
Good, not too bad, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. We've been working to get him on here for a while. Last week we wanted to get him on, just didn't work. He's an awesome guy. He is flexible. But where can we find you on social media, Justin?
Yeah, you can find us. Most people know us. We're mainly on Twitter right now, at TPP Skull. I think that's where people mostly know us at. We do have an Instagram, same thing, at TPP Skull. We do have a YouTube account, not much on there right now, but looking to grow here pretty soon. But that one is The Purple Persuasion on YouTube.
Awesome. Keep up to date with this guy because he is like on the dot on everything. If you need Vikings news, if you need the up-to-date stuff, go over to the Purple Persuasion. You can find him, and he'll have everything up to date.
Thank you. Yeah,
on everything Vikings. So great job. I love your work. So before we get into it, before we start asking questions here, we just want to shout out our sponsor real quick. That's Badass Wood Art. His name is Luis. You can find him on Twitter, on Facebook. You can Google That's Badass Wood Art. Just use code VC15 for 15% off. He does custom wood art, Minnesota sports, Vikings, custom family portraits. He does a great job. Again, use code VC15 at checkout for 15% off. All right, Justin. Obviously, the big question of the offseason is the quarterback position.
Yeah.
The speculation about Kirk right away, is he going to stay or is he going to go? You know, that was the theme there for the first few weeks of the offseason. Obviously, he went to Atlanta, and now the big talk is the draft. Obviously, we're going to have to make a move. We got another pick into the first round at pick number 23, now own 11 and 23. So there's, essentially the top four quarterbacks. There's a couple of quarterbacks that could be first-round picks or borderline first-round picks. But out of those top four, probably excluding Caleb Williams because he's probably locked in at number one with the Bears. Who do you think the Vikings' main target is, in your opinion?
That's a great question. It seems like it changes every day. You get some steam on something, or a beat writer's doubling down on something. But in the grand scheme of things, if I had to put money onto it, I think it's split a little bit. I got about 55% on Drake May. I do think 40% of that's probably JJ McCarthy, or a little bit higher than that. And then the remaining, maybe the Jaden Daniels. I wasn't really into that until like a little bit recently, especially with today with them kind of leaning towards JJ McCarthy. Maybe Jaden Daniels actually falls to 3. That could spiral into a lot of different stuff, because I do think the Patriots really like Jaden Daniels and aren't really sold on Drake May. But if you're putting the chips in one corner or the other, I think definitely it's Drake May or JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, and I think you're right on that as well. Ryan, did you want to put something in there?
Yeah, what are you seeing that kind of makes you think it's definitely, more than likely Drake May or JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think JJ McCarthy he's my favorite. He's our favorite at TPP. I think whatever, KOC and Kwesi decide, they're going to be a great fit. I think Drake May would also be an excellent fit with the scheme that KOC wants to run. I just think a couple of the beat writers that I really trust, that I read a lot of stuff all the time from like pretty much any source that you can imagine. And I kind of have a feel of how do the writers lean, how they write and how they don't. And Alec Lewis and Ben Gosling, they're kind of the two that I really focus on, because they're usually not like the clickbaity type. They're not really putting out stuff that's, breaking news or whatever. And, lately they've been shifting towards, Drake May as kind of the fit that they think KOC is. Everybody knows, Josh McCown, coached him and things like that. And, it gets that deep. But I think when you start to see when the beat writers lean a certain way, they're hearing something. And I think you got to kind of trust that a little bit. So I think that's why I slightly lean towards Drake May. It's definitely not a lot. But I think, Drake May or JJ McCarthy are going to be, in a Vikings uniform here pretty soon.
Sure.
Yep. I agree. And Drake May, I feel like kind of, at the beginning of the whole process, the Vikings and him kind of were connected right away, it feels like, and it's kind of stayed consistent. Whereas JJ McCarthy's kind of been building steam the last couple weeks as like a top 5 guy. And even out of the owners meeting, it sounds like Washington might even select McCarthy at number 2.
Yeah, it's wild.
That is wild. So
Smoke screen season, though. You gotta read the forest from the trees, though, sometimes. But it's fun. It's fun times.
Yeah.
Their report came out recently that Justin Jefferson's heavily involved in the quarterback conversation with KOC and Kwesi.
Yeah.
Who would you think, if you're Justin Jefferson, who out of those 3 would you want throwing the ball to you?
Out of those 3, I think he's going to go with his, alumni. I think he wants Jaden Daniels throwing in the ball. He's got a big arm. They all got big arms, but he really represents, the heritage of his school and stuff like that. So I think if he's going to pick, it's going to be him. He's also like maybe more Justin Jefferson to Allie. He's more open. He's more flamboyant with kind of how he runs. Heisman Trophy winner. Drake May and JJ McCarthy, they're more kind of behind the scenes, sit back, run the offense, but they both do it well. And I do think he'll have a big say in what's going on. And I do believe KOC is going to consult with what he has to say and stuff. So all the stuff about trading Jefferson, and you can just toss that out the window. Makes good storylines. It makes good news, but they're not trading him. But I think he's got a big say.
No.
It's going to be fun.
There seems to be a lot of – go ahead. There seems to be a lot of steam being picked up, for, like we said about JJ being in the top 5, top 4 conversation. Really, what do you think it would take? What do you think it would take to get in the top 3 and subsequently maybe to get to that number 4 or 5 pick with Arizona or LA?
Yeah. I think the top 3, it's going to be 11. It's going to be 23, and you're going to have to throw in that 2025 first round pick too. So that's for sure, to get to 3. I wouldn't be shocked if they threw in a 2026 pick. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's the second. These teams know. I think Kwesi and Kevin, they're gonna go all in. I do believe they're gonna go all in for their guy, whether that's 11 and 23 for JJ McCarthy at 4, or they're gonna push their chips in. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they made some monster, Godfather type trade and got into the second round, or the second pick with the Commanders. I would not be shocked about that. I do believe that they. I think if you're getting into that top 3 realm, you got to give up that 2025 first overall. But then if you want to get to that 4 or 5 pick, you might be able to get away with just 11 and 23, and some kickers, maybe a 4th or some future 3rd or something like that, or a late 6 or 7 in 2024. But I do think it's gonna be more than people think. I think people are real stuck on that. It's got to be just 11 and 23. That's it. That's a fair compensation. But these teams know. They're going to tax. They know you want a quarterback, and is Kwesi going to shut a trade down if an extra 4th gets thrown in, or some filler type stuff that's going to be included, because Kwesi's not going to shut a trade down. Oh, I can't give up a 4th. I can't give up a 5th, a 6th. So you can probably expect that filler stuff. And I wouldn't be shocked if they give up a 2025 first round pick. And if they're getting into that top 2, 3 maybe range, you probably can include that 2026 first round pick too.
Sure. If we see that Godfather trade.
Yeah. What do you guys think at all?
Okay. I've always said from the get that I think the team probably most open to trading back is going to be New England.
Yeah.
Just because I think that they have a few more pieces that they need outside of the quarterback position. I don't feel like a quarterback is going to be super enthusiastic about going to New England. And they probably know that at this point, at this juncture in their team building. And so, knowing that the chance of having success with the team that they have now is probably slimmer, I think they'd be more open to trading back. I do think they're going to make you pay the quarterback tax.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're definitely going to have to overpay. I don't think that's even a question. I think you're right. I definitely see the 2 first rounders this year and a first rounder next year, and maybe even a 3rd rounder next year, something like that, which is sort of similar to what San Fran gave up to get Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't work out, but I can see something like that happen with New England. And then flipping to JJ McCarthy, if for some reason Washington does take Drake May, I don't necessarily see the Vikings making that trade up for Jaden. I don't know that they look at Jaden as someone who's going to fit within the KOC scheme as well. We've heard that a lot. At LSU, they did run a very basic offense. I mean, they had maybe 5 or 6 different route combinations for Jaden Daniels, which made it super easy for him to be successful. And, you know, the rate you can definitely do that in the NFL as well. But that's not the offense KOC runs. So to get JJ McCarthy, I think their only fear is really going to be Denver or Las Vegas, jumping past them to select the quarterback. I don't necessarily think that the Giants are a real threat to draft a quarterback this year, just because I think Dable's probably on the hot seat and he has to do everything he can to keep his job. And selecting a quarterback for the next regime just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, that's great points there, Ryan. It would be funny, honestly, all this talk with Drake May and JJ McCarthy, that they do jump up and get Jaden Daniels. I think that'd be kind of hilarious.
He's under the radar. Like, Alec Lewis had a perfect piece the other day. He was like, you know, nobody's talking about him. Everybody thinks Drake May and JJ McCarthy, they're the perfect fits for the scheme, which is 100% accurate. But the Vikings were one of the first teams to do like their research before he even blew up, like was even in the Heisman Trophy, you know, running and all that kind of stuff. So I think externally people think that, but maybe internally there's something different. And it wasn't until about a couple days ago that I kind of thought maybe, you know, it's smokescreen season, that the Vikings are JJ McCarthy private workout. You know, we have Josh McCown. He's coached him, and him and Sam Darnold watched tapes together back like in 2018 or right around there. And I just think there's too much there that maybe these people are just kind of not really thinking about Jaden Daniels. And maybe he goes to the Commanders like we all think. I think Cliff Kingsbury could really coach him up really well. I think he's a perfect fit for what he wants to run as an offense in there in Washington. But it's under the radar, and it kind of intrigues me a little bit sometimes where there's too much smoke. Yeah, people say there's a fire, but at the same time, it's too obvious that you got to kind of think, you know, under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, the connection with JJ is real, like the LSU connection. I'm sure they've been in talks and everything like that.
They know each other. They've talked for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I don't know if that, you know, that means everything at the end of the day. KOC and Kwesi are going to make their decision. Personally, I like Drake May. I think he's got the highest boom potential as a prospect. I think if Kevin gets his hands on him, I think the sky's the limit, to be honest with you. But we should go over the doomsday scenario for Vikings fans and maybe for the front office. So we can't jump up and get any of those quarterbacks. We got to stick at 11 and 23. Now, I think it's likely they do move up. We have the assets. I think the draft essentially is actually probably going to run through Minnesota. What's Minnesota going to do? And then the dominoes are going to fall after that. But just say, again, doomsday's scenario, 11 and 23. Yeah. What's kind of Minnesota's options if that does take place?
Yeah, I think if they go doomsday scenario, personally, in my opinion, I think they're 100% going into the top 5. I think their jobs are semi on the line. I wouldn't say smoking hot right now, but if they don't get a quarterback in the first round, you know fans are going to be calling for their heads. But I think if you know, maybe something doesn't, you know, it does take 2 to tango. So if they, you know, they don't give up enough for them to trade, or maybe you could offer the farm and then some, and they just say no. But I think if they go doomsday scenario, I do like Byron Murphy from Texas, the D-line interior. They're kind of the new quarterbacks nowadays, these interior pass rushers. Everybody wants edge. Everybody wants the quarterback, you know, the flashy wide receiver or that running back. But it all starts in the trenches. And I do think that Byron Murphy would be an excellent fit. I think Flores can unlock a lot of stuff. I think Tony Pauline was one of them that said that, kind of leaked that the Vikings, you know, have been really in on him from the combine, and even recently with the pro day, they had a lot of people there. So, you know, I think Byron Murphy would be there at 11. I think that's what they would go with. And then they probably would take a flyer, Penix Jr. I don't think they want Bo Nix. I think it's kind of the cards were told there. Nobody showed up to his pro day from the Vikings, and they didn't even have like the private workout, which was supposedly what Kwesi and Kevin kind of wanted. You know, they really value because they can cater things for their workouts for their quarterbacks, and how they adapt to when things don't go right and wrong. But I think Penix Jr. really does fit with what KOC wants to run. It's just not as, you know, special or flashy as, you know, the JJ McCarthy or the Drake May and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think that would probably be their doomsday scenario. Fans would hate it. They got to walk away with a quarterback in round one, even if it is the doomsday scenario. Like I said, they got to walk away with one. What do you guys think?
I think Penix's performance in the national title game really hurt him because if you remember in the semifinal game against Texas, he was slinging all over the place.
Yeah, he was all over the place.
And everybody wanted Penix Jr. after that game.
Yeah, that was a good game.
And I mean, Ewers played okay, but as well. But I think if Ewers came out this draft, he'd be considered a first round pick as well. But stay in another year, he'd be a Heisman candidate. And so I don't know. I mean, to me, it would be interesting if for some reason we stay at 11. McCarthy's gone. The top four are gone. Top four quarterbacks are gone. I love Byron Murphy, and we need help on an interior D-line. Yeah. So I think that's a very logical choice. If he's not there, I do love Dallas Turner. I think he's awfully similar to Micah Parsons as well. And I know we just picked up 2 edge rushers, but I mean, you can never have enough edge rushers. And I think Brian Flores would have a field day with it anyway. So someone like that. And then even at 23, I personally would not be upset if they could land JPJ, the center out of Oregon, because I'm just tired of watching Bradbury get steamrolled. That would make me very happy. And then, I know we're talking, you'd either have to trade back up in the second and third round and land a Nix or a Rattler or something like that. If you want to go quarterback, I would be okay and open to waiting for next year. If it means it's going to be a rough year, we're already only projected 6.5 wins anyway.
Yeah, 6.5.
So if we're going to have a upper tier, pick next year, and we can land a guy like Quinn Ewers, I'm not mad at that. I like him a lot. Quinn Ewers out of Texas too, and there's going to be Shadir Sanders and Jalen Milroe, and there's going to be some guys coming out next year too that are going to be solid players. I do think the top 4 in this draft, I think Ewers would probably be the only one who could compete with those 4. Outside of that, they're just not as good because this draft class is so deep.
I think you're a Sammy Darnold stan secretly.
Golly.
Don't rule him out. He's going to dominate. I say we have to roll a few games with him. Personally, that's kind of the hot off-season take that maybe I would have, as I don't think he's going to start week 1. But if he does have to, he's a lot better than people make him out to be. And they gave him $10 million, pretty much all guaranteed. So that's not backup money. That's not Nick Mullins. That's not Jaron Hall. That's
bridge quarterback money is what it is.
It is. Yeah.
Bridge quarterback money.
I mean, he has been on franchises that have done absolutely nothing for him to help him succeed. So the Jets are a disaster.
You can't rule that. He only played one game maybe with the Niners, the mop-up game at the end of the season last year. But
didn't he go 4-2 down the stretch for the Panthers?
He had a couple good games with the Panthers. I don't remember at the top of my head. I know the Jets was just absolutely dysfunctional. I mean, nothing's worked there. Zach Wilson was a bust, so I would just scrap that.
Still say it's dysfunctional. I mean,
the Panthers
when you put Aaron Rodgers on your team, you're going to be all right. He's going to take you places just because he's Aaron Rodgers. So be thankful, Jets fans.
For sure. No, that's funny. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, like you said, Sam Darnold could start a couple of games. He could sit behind a rookie. Either way, it's $10 million, 1-year deal. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. I love social media. They exploded once that signing happened. I'm like, and everyone just calm down. It's not a big deal. I mean, they needed to sign somebody. I mean, they needed to sign a quarterback. And they could have done worse than Sam Darnold, in my opinion. I think he's going to fit into this system pretty well.
Yes, the Shanahan tree. He knows how to run it.
Yeah,
he's a good fit. If we need he's actually a sneaky good runner too. People don't realize that, but he can actually run the ball. He's not Richardson or Josh Allen or even Mahomes at times, but he's kind of like a Rodgers where he can just, when you need it, he can scramble and get you that first down. And I think that's kind of what KOC is looking for too. So JJ McCarthy and Drake May both have that. So that's kind of another tell too.
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. But I do have one more draft question here for you, Justin. Yeah. And I asked this the other day on Twitter, and I got a bunch of answers. So I did some research on some of these guys, but I'm just interested to hear who your draft crush is for the draft here in April.
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of crushes, but I think like a realistic one, because like I said, they're getting their QB. They're going into the top 5.
Yep.
It won't be less than that. I can almost promise you that. Sure. But somebody that I really like as a 4th rounder is Christian Boyd out of University of Northern Iowa. He is an absolute stud. It's completely underrated. You know, people say he only played like South Dakota State, North Dakota State, you know, those type of schools. But he had like 89 overall PFF grade. His pass rush was 89.3, if I remember. And his rush defense was awesome too. So he's like a jack of all trades type defensive tackle. Can pass rush. He can, defend the run. And he's a big boy. And I like him a lot. And he's actually realistic. He might be earlier 4th rounder, maybe a late day, 3rd rounder if things really heat up here in the next couple of weeks. But as of now, I think getting him in the 4th round is very feasible. And he's definitely one of my biggest draft crushes, especially if they're going QB. You got to fill that trench up here in the middle.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, obviously they need to do something else in the interior of the defensive line. Like I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, oh, it's kind of running it back last year. You got Jonathan Bullard. I mean, you added a couple guys. A couple depth guys like Jerry Tillery and stuff like that, but the run defense scares the hell out of me still. Yeah. So it makes sense to go get a guy that is versatile, can stop the run, can get after the passer a little bit. I love that pick for your draft crush there.
And I think they may package both of them and maybe move up into 3rd. Like if they don't, I do think they're probably going to get milked from one of those 4th rounders. But if they do have them, they could probably move up and sell both of them for a 3rd. But in the 4th round, I think there's going to be a good amount of time between us getting our quarterback and us waiting until day 3 to get a pick. That's personally what I think is going to happen. So
yeah, I like Boyd a lot too.
Who's your guys' draft crush? What do you guys like?
Yeah, I like Boyd a lot too. I mean, 38 bench reps with 225. Guy's a freak of nature. And sticking with interior D-line, I like Logan Lee out of Iowa a lot too. Just because of he was a beast for Iowa, and his combine performance was through the roof. So I think that's an interesting prospect too. And then if you go center position, I'm fixated on the center position.
Yeah, you are.
Van Pran out of Georgia, you probably got to get into the 3rd round to get him. And then I like Bo Limmer too out of Arkansas at center. So those are like my 2 like main ones. Nehemiah Pritchett, I think in the late rounds, if he's still there, that's a corner out of Iowa or out of Auburn. Corner out of Auburn. He ran a 4.36 at the combine. That's another guy I really like, just kind of off the top of my head.
And both of those make sense. I mean, the Vikings need to do something with these trenches. Like you see all the top teams, 49ers, the Chiefs, they got their trenches built up. And the Vikings have kind of struggled against, the good defensive lines, especially, offensively. So I would be fine with either of those picks. I think they could be contributors right away. I'll give an unrealistic one. He's probably a borderline 1st round pick.
Love it.
But wide receiver Malachi Corley, he's like I love him. He's a Deebo Samuel 2.0, and I know everyone says that, but it's literally what he is. 5'11", dude's a wrecking ball. I think he'd be really fun on this offense. A versatile playmaker. Something we kind of haven't had from the wide receiver position since like Percy Harvin, a guy that can kind of run out of the backfield and everything like that. I think that'd be really fun. I think KOC would do a great job implementing that into our offense, but it's probably going to be unrealistic.
Yeah, I love it. It'd be real tough to tackle him without the hip drop now too.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh, don't even get me started on that.
What about Luke McCaffrey? You guys done any homework on him?
Yes,
I think he's a late one that we could get that I really like too as well. But I don't know if they're gonna, they're gonna have to fortify a lot of other things before that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if they got him too.
Yeah, I'm a fan of McCaffrey. I mean, obviously the pedigree's there.
Yeah,
I mean Zach Zinter,
just
the guard out
player.
of Michigan too. Mm-hmm. Zach Zinter out of Michigan.
You like that interior line?
Man, we need it. We need center.
I don't know if it's happening this year. They can only fix so many holes at one time.
Yeah. But yes,
hopes and dreams. I mean, you have to wait until next year probably. No,
we all want to be Kwesi at some point,
Yeah, honestly,
we're not there.
Come on now.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's
So, go ahead.
you kind of touched on it earlier by saying, you kind of touched like that. Not that KOC's on the hot seat, but it's kind of make or break this year. They pretty much got to land. They got to.
Yeah.
We've had some pretty
is.
rough drafts lately. So you think this draft class, you got to hit, even if
he's got to
hit.
He's got to hit. I mean, you're referencing Charlie Walters. Throw out his name, he gets people going. I think it's kind of funny, and he's got pedigree. He's hitting on a lot of stuff. He's missed on a lot of stuff. People think he's kind of clickbaity, but hey, we throw stuff out, let people discuss, and let them have their own opinion. But he's a viable source that has connections, whether people want to accept it or not. But Kwesi's got to hit. His 2022 draft, not good. I think if you think it's good, you're probably in denial then as a Vikings fan. His 2023 draft class, definitely better. But I don't remember what the stat is at the top of my head, but it's something around it's less than 11%, if I remember correctly, that his hit rate of all of his draft picks. And that's not including his unrestricted free agent ones. He's got some good ones with that, but with Ivan Pace Jr. there too. But he's got to hit, and it's got to be a quarterback because the fans are going to lose it. You don't just dump Kirk. I liked Kirk. I understand why they didn't pay him that because it was ridiculous. Wish they could have gotten him back on something cheaper, but I knew it wasn't realistic from day one. And Kirk wanted that, and he's got to hit. I'm just telling you that he'll definitely be on the hot seat. KLC may have a little bit more leniency because he's not the controller of the player roster, and he does his best with what he's given, and he's had one excellent year and 1 year riddled with injuries at the quarterback position, which you can't really judge a guy off that, but you can judge a guy off a draft class. And if he's, essentially 0 for 3 in his first 3 draft, classes, it's not good.
Not good. Yeah. Now, you touched on Kirk a little bit, and I don't want to dive. I think it's beating a dead horse at this point, but I wouldn't consider myself a Kirk stan, although Phil Mackey probably would call me one. I will say
he does his own thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure. But it was my opinion that it wasn't necessarily that Kirk failed us, although I do think what we brought him here to do, we didn't get done for sure. But I also think in a quite a large way, the Vikings failed Kirk. And, when you look at, I think what LA did by bringing in Stafford, and they said, all right, we're going to bring in this guy who's a vet who we know is capable, but we have to put the team around him. And I don't know. What's your thought on that? Do you think that we could have done more as a franchise to give Kirk a chance at more success? Or do you think his contract was just so inflated we were just left with what we had?
That's probably the question of the ages right there. But in the grand scheme of the things, I think Kirk was given enough. At the same time, people want to blame the contract. I'm not a big proponent of it. It does play a factor, but I think people want to just blame that. Kirk makes too much money. We can't fill other spots. To me, it comes back to drafting, and it's not just Kwesi. It's been pretty piss poor since, I feel like Rick was either boom or bust. If there was a guy that like JJ, who's like an all-star of all-stars, or Christian Darrisaw, Adrian Peterson, he just would get the best of the best. Then it would just be somebody that shouldn't even be on an NFL roster, not even a backup, not a third, not a fourth string. He just was here or here, and you can't make a roster with that.
You're not talking about Jeff Gladney, are you? Come on.
Yeah. Rest in peace with him. But it's just too many boom or bust with him. So to me, it's drafting. If I were to pinpoint one thing, poor drafting, both offensive, defensively. And I think that's where the blame is. But yeah, Kirk take up a lot of the cap, more than what is done. But I think with his age and what he wanted now, it just didn't make sense. So it was a good fit. I think this was the right time to move on, cut the cord, and just kind of reset. And I don't know. What do you guys take on Kirk? Everybody's got their own opinion, and who blame what? I don't know. What do you guys?
I just said if you're gonna bring him back, then I did not want a quarterback of the future. I said go for it, and I want to see you get all the free agents, get everybody you possibly can, and go for a Super Bowl. I would have been annoyed if they signed Kirk and drafted a quarterback, because you're saying like, oh, we want to be good now, but we want to really win in the future. And it's like, no, dude, you either bring him back and pay him that to go win that Super Bowl, and you put a team around him to do it, or you cut the ties. And I'm not surprised that they went the direction they went with, because the other contracts with Hunter coming up, and it was probably inevitable that they're going to really just kind of clean house in a sense, to be able to start fresh, especially next year, knowing full well what kind of salary cap numbers we're going to have to play with.
100+ million.
Yeah.
We're
Go ahead, Brett. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, we're set up for the future for a rookie quarterback. I mean, the time was now, in my opinion. And I'm a fan of Kirk. Like, I thought he was a great quarterback for us. We haven't seen that a lot in recent years, prior to 2018 when he came over here. Like, I grew up with like Dante Culpepper, and, he was solid and everything like that. But, then his injury and everything. And then it was kind of a revolving door for the next, damn near decade or so. So I was good with Kirk, but at the same time, you just got to know when it's time to move on. And I believe this offseason was, because like I said, it's set up perfectly for a rookie quarterback, with all the weapons, a defense that's getting more additions to it. Brian Flores, second year here in Minnesota. So, and speaking of free agency, we talked about the draft, kind of going to move into free agency a little bit. They added a lot of, ammo to the defense side of the football. They haven't done much offensively. They re-signed some of their own guys, but they're really tooling up that defense to be a really good unit in 2024. Out of all those guys, Justin, who do you think is going to have like the biggest impact? Who is your favorite signing in the free agency period?
Yeah, that's a good question too. It's people think like it's Grenard, or they don't go down the list of who was the first one. To me, it's Van Ginkel. He's an absolute stud. He can not only play outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense, but he can also play inside linebacker, 4-3, and it just makes more sense for him. He's an excellent fit. He's kind of a jack of all trades type guy, like what Flores really wants, kind of like Metellus. Kind of can play multiple different spots, can cover, can pass rush, can stop the run. And I think this, that's going to be he's one of my favorite signings. And for $2 million, or for 2 years, I think how they spread it out, there was a few void years in there. It made perfect sense. And I like Grenard a lot too. I think and this might be kind of a semi-hot take, but he's an upgrade over Danielle Hunter, in my opinion. Danielle Hunter he's done a lot for this franchise. I always respect what he's done, but he's kind of I don't know. He's not like a stat patter like Kirk, but it's kind of that realm. Like, he's really good at cleaning up. He's there for the sack, but he disappears too much for me to get paid what he got paid. And
and Grenard just fits in the system a little bit better too. I mean, Danielle was kind of out of place, I feel, with Brian Flores. I mean, he made it work and everything like that.
Well,
but Grenard fits right. Like, we'll slide it in, and that's his perfect, pure position that he's going to be playing. So
I think so too. And young, he's like 3 or 4 years younger. Yep. Great fit. I'm really excited about Grenard. Yeah. That's what Kwesi's kind of showing a type now too. It's those guys coming off their rookie contract, showing some potential, but they're not like all-stars. He's got the semi-injured with upside that on the cheap. And I just think it was a perfect Kwesi tell. I think now we kind of got a feeling for what he likes and what he wants to pursue in free agency, at least for now. But I think on next year, we have $100+ million to spend. He's going to unload, and it's going to be a fun 2025 and 26.
They kind of call them the prove it contracts, right? Real short term, a lot of incentive money to be earned because maybe there's injury history, and it's, hey, show us what you got and prove that you can get this incentive money, and your next contract's going to be even bigger. So I think you're right when you say Kwesi definitely has a type. I think the other thing, I don't know that I have as scolding hot a take that he's necessarily better than Danielle, but I do think that the way that he's going to fit within the scheme is going to be better for the defense than Danielle Hunter was. And getting back to Van Ginkel, as someone who lives in South Florida, seeing way more Dolphins football than I actually want to. He is. I said when they signed him, I'm like, you're going to watch this guy on Flores' defense cover a middle third at some point. Like he's going to be dropping back at safety. So I'm super excited about the versatility of the guys that they picked up on defense for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be
Hunter was good. Just to clarify, he was excellent.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. I was.
Yeah, I worded a little bad, but I do think I get you worded it better than I did. So
I think within the scheme, I know what you're saying. That's kind of why I don't.
It was time to move on. I think it was a good movement with Kirk. Like same thing.
Yep. Exactly.
I'll miss the biceps though, man. I'll miss
Dude was jacked for sure. Yeah. Either way, this defense is going to be fast. They're going to be flying all over the football. I mean, add these guys like an Ivan Pace Jr., like having all these guys on the same field, and then Josh Metellus' versatility, a guy that can play linebacker, safety in the slot. Like Flores is going to have so much fun with this defense. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, don't undersell Cashman either, because
and Blake Cashman for sure.
I promise you, if we get in a goal line situation again and Joe Mixon wants to run over Cashman, he's not going to do it like he did. Not like that.
Yeah, I was going to say Flores isn't. I don't know about you guys. I was like Christian Wilkins, get him. I knew it wasn't going to happen because I knew they need their assets. They want. Kwesi was brought in this roster younger, and get the salary gap situation figured out. But I wanted Christian Wilkins, but win to that level that the Raiders got him at, it was ridiculous. But Flores strives. He's never really had a true like, oh my gosh, this is the guy. He's a game wrecker. This was before Christian Wilkins like took off and Xavier Howard, had his all-pro years. He's really just had like people that like are kind of under the radar, or look at last year. He made so many people like have their best seasons of their careers, and
sure.
Bynum played a lot better. I thought he wasn't going to make the roster, and look at him. And Daniil Hunter had honestly his best season of his career too, which was pretty sweet. DJ Wanham's another one. They're not here anymore, but I think that was I think Flores values flexibility with the positions, and you don't really need that $100 million guy that's going to wreck games. I think he can make do with what he has, and I'm really excited to see year 2 under Flores on the defense.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. For sure. I think he's going to do wonders for a lot of these guys' career. And if Wanham didn't get injured, he probably would have got like a multi-year deal. Would have got a pretty decent payday, but he had a major quad injury and everything like that. So he played really well under Flores. But before we get you out of here, I just wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
The off season, it's reaching a peak. Obviously, the draft time, everyone loves it. A month away. We're recording this on the 25th, so a month away from today is the draft. But I just want one bold prediction from you for the rest of the off season. What's like one bold prediction for you?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like the true boldest of bold predictions. I kind of mentioned it earlier in the show, but I think the rookies start in week 1. The whole Sam Darnold stuff, smoke, whether you want to now. We put out a stat maybe a couple weeks ago, but it was like out of the last 6 years, all the quarterbacks drafted in the top 5, only 2 have not started within prior to week 1, and only 1 out of 11 has not started, and that was Trey Lance. So your top 5 quarterbacks are drafted or guaranteed starting by week 2. So people that are really upset about Darnold, I think if we have to play him all year. I know Kwesi said it a couple times that he prefers to sit a quarterback, but it's money, and the owners need to make money. And what's going to put butts in seats? Is it Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Drake May? It's one of them. So that's probably my bold prediction, and I'm sticking to it. That I don't think we're going to see Sam Darnold week 1.
You don't put anything into what Kyle Rudolph said.
Nah. We'll see. I'm wrong all the time. That's why. None of us are perfect. We're not Kwesi. We're not the ones making decisions, overseeing everything. But that's
for sure.
I do think he got paid to not be a backup. So I think maybe that rookie quarterback's not ready to go, and they're more than happy to start Sam Darnold. But I think in the end, once it's all said and done, especially if they get the right one, it's going to be fun. Well, I think they're going to prove themselves in the offseason.
If they do start Darnold, the first interception he throws, we're going to be chanting out for the
Drake May, JJ. It's going to be fun. What about you guys? Got a bold prediction? I like to hear that. I like bold because you throw it out there and they're probably not right.
Ryan?
Ooh, a bold prediction. I don't know if I got bold prediction for the season.
For the
Season goal, I don't know, off
yeah,
season.
whatever.
I mean, I've been on this since before they even picked up pick 23. Is that they're going to trade up with the Patriots?
Okay,
So I don't know if that's that bold. A lot of people are saying that
it's bold. It's specific. I mean,
because they're going to give up a lot to get there. That's
yeah,
bold.
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Because I think I think you're right. I think if Kwesi knows, like, hey, if I get them and I miss, I'm not gonna have a job here anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So what do I care about these future picks?
Very true. And I'll add my bold prediction with yours. They trade up to number 3 with the Patriots, and they select Jaden Daniels at number 3. That's my bold
That's
prediction.
bold.
I love it. That's bold. I like it a lot. Didn't imagine this like 6 weeks ago. So
I know
it's great times.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, we've never selected a quarterback in the top 10 in franchise history. 11 was the highest. So it's something we've never, we never got to experience. So it's going to be fun. This fan base is going to go wild. He's going to be
that's the excitement,
boy,
right?
for sure, whoever it is.
Yeah, that's the excitement, right? The fact that like we've never had that guy. Like even, I mean, okay, look, I didn't watch a lot of football in the 60s, so I can't really talk on Fran Tarkington, but we never really had the guy. Like we know, like, that we just don't have to worry about that position at all, ever. From draft day to almost at least to the end of retirement, we got like a 15, 20-year span of knowing we have solidified the quarterback position. We don't know what that feels like as Vikings fans.
That's all Packers fans know. I mean,
that's all they know.
All they know. Unfortunately for us, but it's the way it goes sometimes. But Justin, thank you for hopping on. We really appreciate it. Like I said, a month away from the draft, it's going to be fun. I'm sure we'll get you back on here.
Yeah, thank you.
There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm sure. A pre-draft trade could even happen. I mean, obviously, it'd probably have to be a top 3 pick if it did happen. They're not going to trade up to 5 or 4 beforehand. But either way, it's going to be fun to talk. You guys got any last things you want to add?
No, I just thank you guys again for having me. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the convo. We love discussion at TPP. So just thank you guys again and appreciate it.
Awesome. For sure. All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Again, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.